Hello, subscribers. This post is about tools, supplies, and a luthier's workbench that I use in fabricating, customizing, and repairing both guitars and basses. There are multiple ways, to go about accomplishing one's goal in this field, especially in choosing what type of tools or supplies you use. What I'm about to share with you is information that I have used for many years and with great success. So let's get to it. First of all, I've got to tell you that you can probably use a variety of tools that are close to what I show you. It's not etched in stone that you use these specific tools that I display, but keep an open mind, and if you can find anything that's close to them, great. They'll probably work just as good. Let's start off with some steel wool. This is an item that I use quite often, especially for fretwork. This is 4/0 or 4/0 steel wool, a very fine metal mesh that does great polishing on frets, etc. The next item is a clamp. It's a long C-clamp with two sizes, basically. These will adjust and tighten onto the bridges, wooden bridges that are used on acoustic instruments. As you can see, you can insert this type of a clamp inside the center hole of an acoustic, and it'll reach all the way over to your acoustic bridge and do excellent clamping. I've made little blocks that I use, and I'll set these so I don't mar up the bridges that I'm repairing. Here's a tool that I made. It's basically a measuring device for installing and cutting a string nut. Let me pull out a nut here and I can sort of demonstrate. As you can see, I've made a center point at this point here of the plexiglass, and I've scored in 6 marks. Down at the base here, there's approximately, a half an inch distance, equal distance, and I've created 6 lines, which gives me 6 string application or 4 string application for basses. As you can see, when I put the nut on here, this gives you a point where you can actually mark with your pencil, and I can do a variety of different sizes based on the type of neck that I'm working on. Great tool to have. Next item would be a utility brush. These are used for applying glue, applying finish. Very good tool to have. I have a variety of files that I use. And I'll show you a sampling of what I have. Fret files, utility files for a variety of different applications. Cutting the bone nut for a bass, filing pick guards, filing wood pieces, fret filing, that's what's used. That's what I use for that. Also, we've got a edge finish remover. This is a triangular file. These could come in a kit form. So very, very important to have files. And usually they're the fine cut that I use. Here's some fine blade metal files. These are triangular. Come in handy, man. These are fret files and nut files that you can get in a kit form from a guitar tool supply house. Just go on the internet and you can look them up, and they might be a little pricey. It just depends on what you get and who you get them from. But these come in different sizes. I don't know if you can see that, but they're the string nut sizes that you need for cutting a string nut, bone nut material. And these are crowning files that are used, and let me tell you, they really come in handy. You'll be using those a lot. Next would be tape. I've got a variety of special masking tape that you can get from a auto painting supply, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch, and 3/4 inch. This is a sort of a medium stick adhesive back. You don't want to get tape that's too sticky because when you remove it, you could remove finish or even wood fibers. I've done that. I've seen it happen. This is a double-sided carpet tape, which is very important for putting on templates for holding positions of a variety of different items when you're doing repairing. It's always good to have different blocks. I use these blocks for a variety of applications. This block is used for polishing. There's your double-sided tape. I polished my toggle switch rings out of stainless steel. These blocks are used for clamping, adjustments of pick guards, and there's just a variety of different usage for blocks. You'll end up making those yourself. Drill bits, you always want to have a good assortment of drill bits of different sizes. They're used to drill pilot holes, pickguard screw holes, bridge holes, strap button holes, you name it. Very important to have. On occasion, I will put a piece of tape on here for a depth gauge so I'm not drilling through, let's say, for example, a headstock. Here's a diamond shaped countersink. It's very small. I use this quite often. I've had a hard time finding these, and when I did find them, I buy them because they do get dull, and sharp ones are always good to have. This is another type of countersink that I use. This will eliminate the paint around a larger hole, like a tuner hole. I've got some other bits that I use. This is a hole step bit. Most of these items you can get at any hardware store. This is a rotary rasp bit. I have a variety of different sizes of Phillips driver heads. These are bits that go into my battery powered drill. Come in very handy. And here's a large and a small. This is 1/2 inch and this is 1/4 inch. I use these on my rotary die grinder for a variety of circumstances in repairing and fabricating. On this size here, I like to keep a dull bit along with a sharp bit. The sharp bit, when they cut good and fast, and you need to be prepared. You can end up getting chatter sometimes. Likewise with these. You always want to have a good hand reamer for holes. This will cover a variety of different sizes. Sometimes I only want to go certain depth, so I'll put on a piece of tape for a depth gauge, but these come in handy for cleaning away residue inside of a hole before you install tuners. Paraffin wax. I use paraffin wax for applying onto a wood screw and driving them into the wood body, neck, or wherever, and it works great. It helps the screw go in a lot easier. And you need pilot holes, the correct size pilot hole for driving in screws. I can't stress that enough. You certainly don't want to break off a head of a screw when you're doing your repair or customizing. I hand make my certain sizes of Allen wrenches. Good set of Allen wrenches is good to have. Basically, I cut a slot into a dowel and I insert an Allen wrench. And a lot of times when you buy items, they'll send you an Allen wrench if it calls for one. And there I made a hand tool. These are for Floyd's. I've got them for metric and then fender type Allen head screws. So a good set of Allens are good to have. You want to have a good set of awls. These are for starting your holes for your positioning your holes for your strap buttons, pick guards, mounting rings. Come in very handy. A multimeter is good to have because I use this for measuring pickup resistance as well as continuity. Very simple application, but it's a time saver. Here's a set of small screwdrivers that I use. These come in flathead, Phillips, mounting ring screws. Any of your small head screws these tools work great. This is a tool that I made. It's basically a ruler And what I did was I rounded off the head, made it a little sharp, and I use this to put underneath and pry up an acoustic bridge. This is a demonstration that I'll have to show you. You need to be very precise and careful. You can really damage an acoustic guitar if you don't know what you're doing. You always want to have a good measuring tape. Doesn't need to be long. This is it's just something I've had. It's 16 feet, but a small one, 3 feet would be all that you need. 4 feet, and a little narrower. This one's kind of wide. What's good about the wide ones here, 3/4, you can extend them out long for long dimensions. But in guitar work, a little 1/2 inch width would be fine. Lighting, you always want to have good lighting. I've got a variety of flashlights to look into cavities, and so they're pretty bright, and they give you all the lighting you need. Very important to have. Good set of pliers and cutters. Got some needle nose, wire cutters, and wire strippers and wire cutters. I use these all the time, and they've got a nice rubber comfortable handle. You can buy these on the internet. A lot of this stuff you can get at a local hardware store if you need it right away, or you can, if you don't mind waiting, within a week you can order these online. Here's some additional pliers that I use. You always need at least 2. If you have more and just lay them around, great. They're easy accessible. Wrenches. Mainly your toggle switches call for these types of wrenches, and let's say you're changing a bit on a hand tool that you may have, a power tuner. This is A440. This is what I use to tune up my guitars with. Must have. String winders, must have, whether they're this type or the type that screw into or fasten into a drill. A fine bristled paintbrush. This one's 3 inches wide. I use it to wipe off debris. Comes in very handy. Measuring rulers. These are metal. This is 6 inches long. I use this for depth, dimension. I measure small parts on a part for a guitar. I mean, kind of a must to have these. I've taken a ruler as well. This is the second application of making something that I use. And when I cut a string slot and I want to see how deep it is, I'll put a piece of tape on the edge of a 6-inch metal ruler that's thin, and then I file down the edge here and make it sharp so it fits inside the high E slot. And what I'll do is I'll measure on top of the nut to the first fret, and I can get my height distance that way. You'll want a variety of sandpaper. Let's see, 400, 600 to 1,000 wet dry, 220 dry, 100, 80 to 100 dry. This sandpaper is a definite must-have for guitar work. I make my own sanding blocks. Here's one, for example, that's used for dressing frets. This is one type of fret dressing that I'll use and do, and this block is just custom made. It's got a bevel on the edge for comfortableness, and you can see I've used it for other applications of drilling holes, and it's kind of a bad thing to do, but when you're working and something's handy and it's available and it'll work, I used it. I mean, I can always make more. I mean, here's some more. I mean, these are very handy. You want to have cutters, whether it be a utility knife with a razor on it, X-Acto knives, or these type of utility box cutting cutters. Razor blade, very dangerous. Be careful. I've got to tell you that in using any of these tools, educate yourself as much as you can. You really can't have enough knowledge in how to use these tools. They can cut you, they can hurt you. I certainly don't want anybody to get hurt. If you use any of these tools, you're going to be using them at your own risk. Like I say, go onto the internet, educate yourself, and work slowly. Never force cut anything. Always keep your hands away from the blades. Never cut into your body. Super glue. Gotta have super glue. And along with the super glue, I use an accelerator. The accelerator that's exactly what it does. It accelerates the drying time of super glue. For example, I use super glue when I glue in a string nut, and it works great. It's good to have a set of razor blades. I buy these type of razor blades or utility blades that go into your box cutters. They work great for a variety of scraping and cutting and marking and scoring. A must have. You want to have marking devices, pencils, Sharpies, eraser, pens. I mean, these you will definitely use this a lot in your work. Um, you want to have a set of hex nut drivers. They come in a number of different sizes. This particular one here is long. It's long for a reason. I will show that eventually. This is for basically adjusting the truss rod, the nut, and this part here I've actually ground down. You rotate it and grind it, and makes it narrower so it fits inside the Les Paul or Epiphone, those types of guitars. Neck adjustments. Very important to have. Good tool to have. You'll want to have a magnifying glass for looking at blemishes, cuts, cracks. I mean, definitely gives you a greater eye, greater visibility. Set of screwdrivers. Here's a few. Small, large, medium. I mean, Phillip head, straight head. I've taken a large screwdriver and I turned it into a special tool. This is an awl here that I may use to set the markings for the claw. It's such a fine, close area to do it with a small awl, something like one of these. I mean, I guess you could, but on this particular application, I can because there's no obstruction here, I can lay this tool down flatter and get a more accurate reading and marking. Moving on to electronics, you'll definitely want to have a variety of wire. Shielded wire. This is 2-conductor shielded wire. This is just plain white wire. There's black wire. I pretty much just use black and white in wiring my custom electric guitars and doing repair work. Running from a switch to potentiometers, like on the Sandoval .V that I make, I need a 2-conductor that's shielded because I run it quite long. You'll also want some solder. And for electronics, I use a good solder gun or the pencil solder, a heat gun for heat shrink tubing. Here's a variety of your heat shrink tubing. This comes in all sorts of colors and sizes for insulating your exposed wires. Solder is just a 6040 rosin coarse solder. Heat gun, be careful. This can get really hot. You don't want to burn yourself and you don't want to burn things around you, as well as this tip. They get hot. Be very careful. Keep them away from your body. Be careful how you grab things. You don't want to grab something that is hot. Once again, you start using these tools that create a lot of heat, or they're sharp, or they can burn you. You're doing this at your own risk. Educate yourself on how to use these items. Very important. I mentioned Dremel bits, countersinks, and a drill bit. Well, here's my rotary die grinder or Dremel that you want to use. This is a larger one. I do wood. It's like a small specialized router that I use it for. I mean, I've done a lot of cutting with this using these variety of bits on the end, these tips. And here's my drill. It happens to be an electric one. I don't really push any names of products. Like I say, find the best you can that's close to what I've shown you, and it'll work just fine. You'll be a happy camper. Here's another countersink, by the way, that's on here. And in countersinking and using a drill and Dremel and all the small motorized hand tools, you want to be very careful. Always do a practice cut until you start getting used to the feel of these small hand tools and before you actually start working on your guitars. I've been doing this for years and years and years, probably over 40 years now. And so I can't tell you how many holes I've drilled, how many sinking I've done, how many pickguards I've made, customizing in a variety of different ways, making metal parts, electrical work, customizing electrical work like on my dot B. I mean, I draw up my own schematics. Here's one. It's just basically a pictorial, but you know, I was taught more of a layman way of approaching electronics. So, you know, you will be drawing up your own circuit designs. If you go on the internet, I mean, you're going to find a lot of information. There's your an additional mentor aside from subscribing to my posts. I will show you in detail as much information that I know in doing the work that I do. It's not the only way to do customizing, repairing, or fabricating. It is just one way. It is Karl Sandoval's way. And you may agree or you may not agree with the way that I approach the work that I do, but then that's okay. Let's just say that we agree that we can disagree and try another approach. Everybody has their ways of approaching certain repairs. It might be faster, it might be quicker, it might look better, it might look good to them. But what I'm going to show you works. I've proved it for many, many, many years. I have many satisfied customers, be they beginners all the way up to pros that are recording artists that are famous, I mean, and have recorded wonderful music with the instruments I have worked on. So my instruments are shipped around the world. I get a variety of customizing to do. The sky's the limit. And one of the things that I really stress in my customizing of guitars is that try to be original. That's going to be a hard thing to do because it almost seems that everything's been done. You might have standard shaped bodies, and then the body's modified a little bit by another company, and then they call it another name, and boom, there you are. It's another guitar. Well, is it really? You know, I'm not going to start naming names of companies and fabricators and customizers. They're all doing what they love to do for whatever reasons, and power to them. I'm flattered that many people have copied the work that I've done or tried to copy the work that I've done or designing I've done. I'm not going to claim that I've created anything. I mean, it's like all we're doing is taking what's been done before and just changing it up a little bit, and that's okay. But anyway, getting back to what I will be showing you, these tools here are a great fundamental basic beginning standards of what you can use to get your assembly done, to get your fabricating done, to get your customizing done. There may be so much here that it might be overwhelming, but trust me, if you just get these basic tools, then it'll give you a start and you'll be able to do a lot. And we'll try and refine how to use these tools. The best way that I can show you is not to just take each tool and show you how to use it, but as I do the fabricating, repairing, and customizing, I will bring out a tool. And these aren't all that I have. I mean, this is more of what I call my assembly area and assembly tools here that I use and supplies. I have a woodshop area, and I've got additional tools out there alongside some heavy machinery and some smaller machinery that I use, which I think I'm going to end up making another video on those tools and their applications. But in the interim of all this, in showing you customizing and fabricating and repairing, you will begin to see how it's done, basic understanding. I mean, listen to the videos. If you can improve on what I've showed you, great. If not, Stick with what I've showed you, and you'll do fine. There's always going to be a better way. There's always going to be a faster way to do things, and that's okay. I'm not into production, never liked production. I've worked in the production field, don't like it. I like more of the customizing, the originality, which I stress when somebody has something custom made, be original, be different. What's done out there is done. Try to do something different if you can. So with that in mind, I wish you the best of luck, and thank you for watching my video. Until the next one, hasta la vista, baby.